Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Does anyone have any questions, since it's the last class of the season, let us say? Do you have any questions you would like to deal with? If you have a general question, we're going to take it up right now, because once the class starts, then we won't do that. If you have a question, switch on your video so that I know you're going to say something.
Yeah, I have a general question.
Yeah, go ahead, Naeem.
Start my video. So, Chankaji, as we usually see, people are either successful spiritually or materially. Have you ever come across any personality who you feel is like successful spiritually and materially? The known.
Of course, so many.
Who would you?
Swamiji to begin with. Swamiji.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in Vedanta, you're expected to be successful in both. You're not expected to be poverty stricken and, you know, of course, it also depends on what you mean by success. You have to also define that. For instance, how much money should you have? How much actual assets, money you should have to be called successful? Do you know the answer to that?
Enough to meet your needs.
Yes, your assets have to be more than your desires. So how on earth is it possible that any Vedantin will not be a rich person?
I was thinking more in lines of like Janaka. Janaka, he was a leader and he was, he was both it's very tough to be that position, be so in so much material and still be, focused on spirituality. So those are the kind of people I was wondering if
Abdul Kalam, wouldn't you call him I mean, God's good man, very successful in the material world, excellent at what he does. JRD Tata, very successful. I mean, who? Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, all these people were well to do and on the path. So it's not so unusual or so rare or something. Loads of people in the Western world also. What about Abraham Lincoln? I mean, it is the norm that spiritual people will be successful materially. It is the exception when they are not. And when they are not, it is because they have made some choice like that.
Okay.
It's like an adult dealing in a children's world. How can that person not do well there? And if he doesn't do well, it's because, he chose not to. He was preoccupied or something.
Right. Like Mahatma Gandhi, he chose to be a very simple life.
Yeah, he chose. Okay, look, Mahatma Gandhi's needs were extremely high. He wanted independence. Okay, that costs money, amongst other things. His needs were high. His needs were met. Do you know that when he walked on the streets of India, women would take out their jewelry and put it at his feet? Now, money means he had money flowing in like nothing. So it is the norm that if you are a spiritual person, you will be materially successful. It's the norm. It's not the exception. The exception is when they aren't, like Christ, he's crucified. Or Socrates, he's crucified. These are the exceptions because they chose it like that. Right. Christ chose his crucifixion. He couldn't get away from that. Socrates couldn't get away, like all his people told him, please escape. What are we going to achieve by your death? Plato was so, if you read it, it's like everyone is sitting there sobbing and not understanding why he's choosing not to go. He chose not to go. So that's his individual decision based on his understanding of life, right? And so conveniently they went. And when I say conveniently means, you know the story, right? They gave him hemlock.
He accepted.
Very casually he drank it. Like we were drinking a glass of wine or something, you drink it. Or a glass of thumbs up. I don't know if you drink wine, but thumbs up he drank very aram se. Then he only took his sheet and he put it over his head. Okay. Then after some time he removed that sheet. Okay. And then he's saying, oh, I had taken a cock from somebody. And he was, I had to repay him for that. So please give it back to him. And then he again closed it. Like one last job I have in here. Don't take fun. I mean, like he is just about to die and he's thinking, oh, that fellow's money I have not yet given him. So you can imagine with what, I don't know, like when we are busy with our work, we don't even think about what we have to give people. No, we forget about it. Now he's about to die and he's still thinking, oh, wo ek kaam reh gaya. So can you imagine with what ease these people do these things? Mahesh has a suggestion. Okay, Ajay. Okay, you can take Ajay as an example, except that since he's ex-student, I don't know whether he's still on the spiritual path or not. So, yeah, I mean, so many people who have studied classes have gone from, I don't know what, level to level to level. How do you think we get whatever money we get?
And why do we have this kind of belief in India that spiritual people should be, without any business or worldly attachments, and they should be,
You're 50% right. People without, spiritual people are without worldly attachments, correct, but not without business. people have equated these two things. Without worldly attachment, in people's mind is converted to no wife, no child, no work. That is how it converts, but that's not what it said. What it said is no worldly attachment. And if you go to the Gita, I'm quoting the Gita there's no reason to quote it, but I'm quoting it because you'll understand that what are the words, actual words. It says, Vishayan Indriyas Charan. Vishayan among the sense objects. Charan, walking. He is amongst the worldly activities, but he is unattached. Anasakta. They don't say you are in the forest and unattached, because they think if you're in the forest, then where is the question? Why this question of attachment? It won't arise, right? To say unattached means you are with something where attachment is, there is a likelihood. Otherwise, the point is useless.
So, Janki, is it saying that in order to be spiritual, you have to go through the material path?
No, it doesn't say anything. This is all immaterial. It says that if you chose to do a business or have a family or whatever, you will do it well. There's no prescription here. It doesn't say do a business or have a family. It's not saying that. There's no prescription. Each one of us is an individual, right? Suppose you are the type of person who likes to be alone, then be alone. Suppose you're the type of person who likes people around, then have people around. Unattached will stay the same.
Then how do I know, Janki, whether I'm practicing spirituality or escapism? How do I know the difference?
What do you like? Are you the type of person who would like to run a business or have a family? And if you don't know the answer to the question of do I want, okay, Mahesh is going about giving us examples. Arun is also an example, yes, extremely well-to-do in terms of the world. And also, wait, if he's in class, then it's very embarrassing for him. So I hope he's not in class. Let us see. Okay, let's not see. So Arun Sehgal is there, who retired recently as the head of India Pacific, Asia Pacific, Middle East, something like that. There's a long list. He was the head of all of that for HR for GlaxoSmithKline. Okay. And when I met him 20 years ago, that was not the case. I mean, I can't remember what was his designation, but I know he wasn't there. So he's been studying very regularly, almost every morning, going to the academy, learning from Swamiji, learning in Delhi. There are other teachers. He's learning from them as well. He's put in effort. So the point is that, what was I saying? Mahesh is going on trying to...
I think the examples are enough. We got the point, I appreciate examples.
So how will you know whether you are that type or not? There is a video on the YouTube channel that discusses, should I marry or not? Okay, so you can look up those points. For instance, there are 6 points why someone should marry or not marry. So analyze yourself with respect to those points and check whether you fall into it. For instance, companionship. How much do you need it?
Janki, I'm not interested in marriage specifically. I'm sure you got that. I'm looking at a more fundamental level. Like if I am in tamas, I can't jump to sattva directly. I have to go through rajas and then reach sattva. So I'm thinking, if I am somebody who doesn't have much, I can't simply say I renunciate and become a sannyasi. I have to go through the material world, then start renouncing, and then become sattvic, become a sannyasi. So I have to go through rajas.
Renunciation has to start from now. It's not that you have to go through the material world as if that is the opposite of renunciation. That's not how it works. You are a teacher, right?
Right.
Okay. So as a teacher, what is renunciation? Renunciation is, I will teach you to the best of my ability and be more concerned with your doing well than my doing well.
Right.
Okay. So that is your renunciation. Leaving teaching is not renunciation. What is renounced is the selfish intent in the action.
Correct.
So it is not that you, in fact, the people who are the greatest in terms of spiritual, in terms of material well-being, are those who have actually renounced, because that's the way to get. If you like, I tell you about a person who you will not put in the category of renunciation at all, Dhirubhai Ambani. Okay, so now Dhirubhai Ambani, how does he make this kind of money? He never sets out to make money. That is the first rule of it. You're not setting out to make money. What you're setting out to do is something, the consequence of which is that you make money. And he was so, he said, this is his statement, okay? I'm not making it up. You can go look it up. He said, if to make what Vimal or something, Reliance, to make that Reliance thing work, he had to deal with government officers. He says कि मुझे उनके पैर भी पड़ने पड़े तो मैं पैर पड़ूंगा. Can you imagine? I mean, nobody like that, right? Suppose you had to go and pair pado somebody, would you like it to get something? He's willing to do it. Talk about putting yourself aside. In everything, we are unable to put ourselves aside. Me, I am the hero in this story. I want, I don't want, I like, I don't like. It's all about me. So there's resistance from the world. Let it be about, even like now we did crowdfunding, okay? And very successful crowdfunding. Most people did extremely well. They went beyond their targets. And of course, now we have a reasonable sum in our kitty. From zero to hero, we have suddenly gone. And the thing is, some people are trying to fill their targets. They may not do as well as they could. Even if you have filled your target, not just because you didn't fill your target, but even if you did fill your target, your attitude was, I have to complete my target. You won't do as well as you can. If your attitude is, I have to set up Vedanta University, you will do your best. This is the law of life. From rooftops, Vedanta is screaming this, but we don't get it. Work for the cause, not for yourself. In everything, even when we do karma, we start getting involved in the work. I like it, I don't like it. How do I look when I do it? Things like that. That I has to go. That's the poison in us. So if that I goes, you suddenly find everybody cooperating with you.
Jackie, coming back to that same question of people who are spiritually and materially successful. You, for example, you mentioned Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, and these people make sense to me. But people like Ratan Tata or these corporate leaders, their corporations cause so much of environmental pollution and harm, and the kind of products they sell, which are very rajasic and tamasic. Very few sattvic products you find in the market. So I feel a lot of the products are either tamasic or rajasic, and they're funded by these corporates. But still, we feel that people like Ratan Tata are spiritually good and materially good. That's what we feel, because they might be doing some charity on the side, might be helping education, they might be funding some good projects also. But it's like the harm is much more than the benefit. That's what it seems like, the way the corporates are run.
There's something wrong in our yardstick of judgment. You're looking upon them as merely polluters. You're not looking at any other thing.
They're doing good also, but I feel...
No, I don't mean other charity and all. I mean that organization itself. Pollution is the other side of development. Don't ever forget that point. Pollution is a terrible thing, but it's the other side of development. Stop that corporation and those 10,000 people lose their jobs. It's not a good thing. yes, we must learn to make corporations which don't pollute. That is
That's
correct.
right. Mm.
But how should I put this? It's a common problem that we always look upon business as the villain in the piece. You know, builders, they are so bad. Look at what they did. Or massive corporations, they do this, they do that. Really? Do you realize that, okay, airplanes are one of the biggest polluters? How many of us have stopped using them? We use them because it makes sense to us, right? Individually. Why are you blaming the corporation? That man who had the vision to build up these massive corporations and the people who have the capacity to work cooperatively to maintain that corporation. Because imagine these massive corporations like that, 10,000, 20,000 people working there, all working towards something. They are functioning cooperatively. We are missing all the Vedanta there. We stand in judgment. We say, okay, they are in pollution. Yes. What about all the other side? I'm not talking about other side as in all the good work they're doing otherwise. I'm saying that corporation itself. Okay. Which is the biggest polluting thing today? Cars. Close down cars. Close down every car. You and I will not be happy.
That's not the solution, Janki.
No, that's not the. I'm not talking about solutions here. I'm talking about calling a dog mad and killing it. You're decrying something which you cannot do without, which is not fair. Everything we have coming to our house, electricity coming to our house, everything coming to our house. People think electricity is clean energy. Have you really investigated this enough? A lot of the electricity is made out of coal. So, a lot of the electricity.
So I think, like you said, Janki,
their grounds.
Bottom line is they are basically tools, whether it's a corporate or anything else. It's just a tool. How you use it matters.
No, they have done something we have not done, which is learn to work cooperatively towards something.
That is true.
They have imagined all over the world, some of these corporations are, and they're able to do it together. I mean, of course, they'll pull each other, they'll do all that, but whatever the thing is, that behemoth is continuing, no? In and through everything. So it is our vision. If you look at it, really cooperation has worked for them. The fact that money exists, this point was brought up by, what is his name? Noah Yuval Harari. Remember, you know Harari, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was fascinated to hear this. He said, the fact that money exists shows cooperation between human beings. Because money in itself is nothing. When I say this is 10 rupees, you have to also accept, no, it is 10 rupees. Suppose I say this stone is 10 rupees and you accept it is 10 rupees, then we have currency. If you don't accept it, we don't have currency. So the fact that money itself exists it shows the ability of human beings to cooperate. Isn't that a fantastic thought?
Definitely.
Because in our country, we decided that note, 500 rupee note, 500 rupee note was no longer 500 rupees and suddenly it wasn't. How did that happen?
So, Janki, we can say that corporates are tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. They always have to exist in those three states. Tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic corporates.
People are tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic. And nobody is one. Everybody is all of it. That aspect of us which can cooperate with others is sattvic. The marriage works because there's cooperation. The corporation works because there's cooperation. The building society works when there's cooperation. That aspect of us which can cooperate with one another, can think of something beyond the immediate irritation or whatever, that has pride in the larger picture instead of itself. That is sattvic. That in us which says, I am the most important thing. That is rajasic. And that in us which says, छोड़ो यार, क्या लेना ना देना, करने दो उसको जो करना है, tamasic.
Just to be clear, Jankish, I'm not against corporates. I've worked in the US myself for 12 years. And today, if I have the freedom, it's because of these corporates and the pay they gave me, which is why I have freedom today. So I'm not against corporates. I was just curious. I actually wanted to know what, in your view, based on your experience, would be great to know from your point of view, who are spiritually and materially successful people. I was just wondering what your thoughts were. That's what I want.
Okay. My thoughts are unimportant, Naim. The
No,
principles are important.
You're my guru. I have to see what you think also.
If I make a mistake, you please don't repeat the mistake. Stay with the principle. That is always a good idea. You never know who makes a mistake where. We are all humans. And each one of us thinks in a certain way. Okay. And this thinking changes over a period of time. But what stays eternally the same is that basic principle. It's understanding in our intellects keep changing. Okay.
Thank you, Janki.
Okay, so anyone else has anything else? Did you all get anything out of this, or are you all totally bored now because we discussed this point? I can't see you, no, so it's very sad. Okay, you all are all okay? Any other question anyone has? Please switch on your video so I know you have a question. Otherwise, I'm waiting. Okay. Great. The thumbs up, I mean, means that we should continue, right? What thumbs up means? Rajesh, you have a question? Huh? Okay. Yes, okay. Varsha, you had a question?
No, yes. You asked whether continue. I said, yeah, it means continue.
Okay. All right. So, Turkey and the Ant. What a beautiful poem. All those who are coming to the residential course are going to hear it again. Turkey and the Ant. How involved we are in the faults of others. And yet spiritual development means being unfazed by the faults of others. The capacity to see the good instead of the bad. All the time we are focused on the negative things in people. When will come that blessed day when you see a person, you see the fault, and you love the person anyway? Like a parent loves the child. You see the child, you see the fault, and you love the child anyway. Like that, can we be like that with everybody? To sit in judgment is easy. You know how we make excuses for our own faults? Suppose I shout at you. I say, yes, it's true I shouted, but I shouted because blah, 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 blah. But if somebody shouts at us, we say, see, hot-tempered person. We don't make excuses for that person. We don't say they shouted, but they shouted because of this reason. So, when the first step of spirituality is to turn that critical eye within, not outside. Outside is great. Outside is wonderful. Outside is just as it should be. What I am correcting is inside, not outside. So you'll say, oh my God, how can you say that? All the time you are teaching Vedanta, and Vedanta is supposed to teach people how to improve themselves. So you're correcting outside. No, that's the big lesson we learn. All of us have different roles. As the institution grows, we all will have different roles. Some people will have to teach, some people will have to administer, some people will have to deal with finances, some will have to deal with whatever, different aspects of it. Or marketing. Marketing is a bad word for us, but still, Unless people know what we are doing, how will they benefit from it? So some amount of publicity has to go on. Different people will have different roles. But the big question is, why are you performing that role? Why are you doing it? When you start doing whatever you're doing with the intent of self-purification, even if you're teaching Vedanta, what are you teaching it for? With the intent of self-purification, then you are on the spiritual path. So Academy also starts with this, and our residential course will also start with this. Starts with, ere you remark another sin, bid thy own conscience look within. Control thy more voracious bill, nor for a breakfast nation skill. Nothing really to say, no, it's so self-evident. How much damage we ourselves create. You know, one of the surprising things in life, at least that surprised me, I spent my life teaching Vedanta. Okay, so I would say that I did what I knew how to do. But what surprised me a lot was sometimes, of course, people tell me, how they benefit from Vedanta and all. And I tell them, look, it's benefit from Vedanta. I'm a postman, so which is a fact of life. I'm not being humble. But those principles have come down to us from years. What? So you didn't expect people would say those kind of things to me. But, the most surprising things? The most surprising things is when people tell you something which, they tell you that something, okay, I'm giving you a made up example, but the point is that somebody meets you and says, 20 years ago, you told me that whatever, X, Y, Z, some very simple thing that why don't you consider doing X or Y, or you're such a nice person, something innocuous, like there's no thought behind it, there is nothing, it's just almost polite conversation. That 20 years ago you said that to me, and I'll never forget it. I'm like, what? I've been teaching Vedanta all my life and you won't forget that? Just a smile to somebody, just a acknowledgement. You see, when the guard salutes us as we walk out of the building or wherever, guard salutes us, people don't even turn around and look at him. What do you think he feels? What would you feel if you did something for somebody and it was not acknowledged? I think this is a story of Sam Manekshaw, that one of his lieutenants passed an officer and passed a junior officer, and the junior officer didn't see him. So he got very angry. The lieutenant got very angry, and the junior and told the junior, "What do you mean? You're passing a senior officer and you did not salute him?" So he genuinely hadn't seen him. So this evening, 500 salutes is your punishment. So Sam Manekshaw heard this. The story goes, okay? And he heard that this was a crime and this was a punishment. So he said, he called the lieutenant and he said, "Oh, I heard that you, this was it." And he said, "Yes, we have like that." So Manekshaw said that, "Oh, good, they really should not be doing things like that. Good, you did it. But just remember that an officer returns every salute." I hope you understand what that means. He returns every salute. That means that guy will salute you 500 times. You will also salute 500 times back to him. How? We are so careless about how we deal with people. A word, a smile, a look makes a difference in people's lives. So what the point was? Do you remember what the point was? How much damage we create. Okay, we are not aware of what we are doing, so we're creating damage when we don't do, when we hurt people, maybe even unintentionally. And intentionally, so crazy. I've seen husbands and wives talk to each other like they're like dirt. Oh, he's always like that. How can you talk about another human being like that? Can you chill? Can you put some kind of lagam over here? You may think like that, but shut up. You can't speak like that. You can't talk to people like that. You have no idea how much damage you're creating. Wives, especially, husbands keep quiet generally, but wives, Bapre, they say, he's this, he's that, he's that, he's that, he's that, he's this. I know, because I'm a wife too. But the fact is, how much we can talk about somebody and how negatively, how badly, we don't know how we're impacting that person. So all the while we're looking at somebody and saying bad stuff about him, are we not doing worse than what we claim that person is doing? We won't speak badly. Like how Naim said, I worked for organization, whatever, for 12 years, and whatever I have is because I did that. Gratitude, no? So, first step, I see no bad in nobody. If at all I see any bad, I see it in myself. Baba, let me be clear about this much. Once I'm clear about this much, I have taken my first step. Nobody's at fault, I am at fault. To which now when spirituality says this, the big problem is, suppose I have a husband who's beating me up, okay? Then I'll say it's not his fault, it's my fault. One second, just take this easy, okay? Nobody is allowed to beat you, husband or wife. Some wives also beat up their husband, not necessarily. I don't want to be gender centric. You know, there is an organization of men who have been beaten by their wives. So you can imagine there are sufficient people like that who have got beaten. And worse for men, because other people will laugh at them. They'll say, "BV say beating khaya," so he can't even say anything, poor fellow. So worse for him, really. So we should not be gender biased. So a spouse beats you. Now, this beating is not to be accepted by anybody, either side. But what am I supposed to do? The fault is clearly the other person's. Now what do I do? How do I see this?
What have I done to end up in this situation and how to get out?
How do I correct my behavior? I don't have to be in a position where I have to be beaten up. If I'm in that position, I put myself there, I can take myself out. Okay, so I hope the concept is clear. Concept is, there is nothing wrong with anybody. There is, if at all there is something wrong with anyone, then it has to be within me. So I have to correct myself. Now I meet a tiger. That tiger mauls me. So is the tiger to blame? No, right? Who told me to go in front of a tiger and make faces at him? If you go to a tiger and make faces at him, what do you think he's going to do to you? He's going to say, if you slap me on one cheek, I will lend you the other. Is he going to do that? Who asked you to go to him and talk nonsense? So I hope it's clear. Each person has his nature. That nature is labeled negative by us when
It negatively impacts us.
It doesn't fulfill our desire.
When it interrupts my desire, I call that nature negative. It's that simple. There is no negative nature. So concept is clear. Concept is, there's nothing wrong with anyone. Okay. That doesn't mean that there is no negative effect on us. That negative effect on us, we have to handle.
So, Janki, is it saying that there is no evil? Is there any concept of Satan in Vedanta? Evil?
Satan is another word for desire.
That's it.
Shaitan, who is the shaitan within you? The desire. All the religions have shown desire. See, Vedanta is for intellectuals. You can tell by the number of people in the class that everybody is not going to take interest in this. So what do people take interest in? Many people actually come and tell me. There's one person who's a friend of Vedanta. Let's call such people friends of Vedanta. So he says, you have so much knowledge. आप में एक प्रॉब्लम है. सर क्या प्रॉब्लम है? ये नॉलेज वाले से काम नहीं चलता. कोई स्टोरीज वॉरीज बताओ ना. People are interested in that. हाँ, I'm sure they are interested in that. पर मुझे स्टोरीज पता नहीं, मैं कैसे बताऊं. So the old saints did not have the freedom as we have today because education was not so high. So very few people had any intellect whatsoever. So they had to tell us stories. So when they told us stories, then they said, शैतान आया और उसने बोला कि ये बुरा काम करो, वो बुरा काम करो. तो ये शैतान जो आया, ये कौन है? It's only your own desire telling you to do that thing.
So, sattvic desires, Sankaji, what are they then? They are also devil?
Every desire is shaitan. Some shaitans are more sophisticated, that's all. Otherwise, why shaitan? Because desire is what is the barrier between a human and God. What is the barrier between human and God? Instead of following the voice of God, you're going to follow the voice of shaitan. So what is that thing? Desire. Mara in Buddhism, Asura in Hinduism, Shaitan in Islam, Satan in Christianity, Angre Manyo in Zoroastrianism. You see, it's the same. If you look at it, it's all like following the same general pattern. These Angre Manyo will tell you something, but you have to go towards Ahura Mazda. Shaitan will tell you something, but you have to go towards Allah. So, like, they're the same general pattern. So at that time, they were forced to tell stories because in any population, intellectuals will be few. Now you want to influence the population and you have to go to stories. So that's why they used all these stories. I hope this this concept is clear, right? If something is bothering you, it is not because the other person is negative, but because it's a direct punch on our desires. Simple, no? Sometimes you don't know what to explain, it's all so self-evident. Okay, shall we move on to the next para?
Janki, 1 minute.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Janki, why there is a tendency to criticize people?
Because it's if you do Milind, anything. Where did you go? There you are. Milind, are you married?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when do you criticize your wife? Suppose she doesn't make you lunch. Then you criticize her. Meri biwi mere liye khana bhi nahi banati. Why did you criticize her for not making lunch? It interrupts my desire. Suppose she nags you. Then you'll say, she's nagging me too much. Why are you criticizing her for nagging you? Why don't you say, like Socrates, wow, look at this capacity of nagging. Isn't it amazing? When you see large waves in the ocean, you say, wow, no? When you see the tiger going, then you say, wow. When you see your wife nagging, why don't you say, wow? What a brilliant expression of nagging. In the Gita, if she was there at that time, Krishna would say that in nagging, I am my wife. No, why are you not appreciating it? Because interrupting our desire. Otherwise, now why are you finding it funny? Because at the moment it's not. Now you're saying, yeah, correct. Not interrupting. You're finding it funny. Same thing will become funny when your wife nags you. It's very funny for me. When Farouk's wife nags him, it's very funny for you. When Mr. Santok's wife nags him, it will be very funny for you. But, so whether it is funny or it is negative, it's a matter of, is my desire being interrupted? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Amarinder, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, got clarified from millions.
Okay, fine. You two are friends, is it? Okay. All right. So, okay, who will read the next? Anyone else wants to say? Oh, Hema Subramanyam from YouTube. Okay, thank you, Mahesh. Thank you for looking at that. Please, somebody look at what people are saying on YouTube and tell us over here, because I have no visibility on if someone asks a question there. So, Hema, everything that irritates you about others leads to a better understanding about yourself. That's very true. Correct. That's what Carl Jung said, and yeah, that's true. Okay, so let's go on. This is clear, right? Anyone has a problem in this?
Jankiji, as you just said the last point, if you find something irritating about somebody, it's a reflection that could be in you. What if
What
you
could
see a
be?
flaw?
Wait, who said could be?
That's what we just said, right? If
I
we
did not say
find a
that.
flaw,
I said it is.
it is.
But I say could be.
Okay, so it is.
It is.
And okay, fine. It is. Okay, let's say it is. Then. But what if you see something in somebody and in some irritation you find compassion, you feel compassion? Then does it indicate that you have overcome what you had in you before as a flaw?
If earlier the same thing irritated you and now you only feel compassion, correct. Yes, it means you
Correct. You have overcome.
You actually feel sympathetic. You're little sympathetic, little amused, little, yeah. Because you don't have a desire, it's not bothering you. Just how you feel when, if Milan's wife nags him, for you it will be a joke, no? So, same, how you would feel if somebody treated another person like that. You feel the same when they treat you like that. Then you've outgrown the desire.
Good.
Yeah, Uttara?
Janki ji, I just wanted to know, can you hear me?
Your voice is quite soft, huh?
Oh, one sec, just hold on. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as Mahesh has put up this Carl Jung's statement, so does that mean it is universally applicable? So, in all characteristics, so we can't simply criticize a single person, even though, like you feel that whatever negative you feel.
Don't bug you, Uttara. Let us criticize few people. ऐसे थोड़ी ना होता है.
Exactly. So I feel that
no, you can't criticize anyone at all. Love some. Okay, only my mother-in-law you allow. Huh? Everybody else. ऐसे नहीं होता. Nobody. Sorry, Uttara.
Yeah, because it is difficult to digest, Janki ji. Because you do feel that some traits you see somewhere and you definitely don't have those traits. Then how does it define you?
Not have those traits. Read that thing. Everything that irritates you about others leads to a better understanding about yourself. You can understand yourself. You can understand where is your strongest desire, because that is the one that really hurts.
Oh, okay. Because it could be just a general observation about somebody who has no connection with you, and yet you feel that some negative points about somebody, I have to still think over this action.
You don't have to do anything. You just have to understand yourself. What you do is dependent on the situation, but you understand yourself that, okay, let us say that my husband does something that hurts me a lot. So I have to do two things. One is I have to work on him so that he stops hurting me. But the more important thing is that I understand where I'm weak and I try to build myself over there. Sometimes, I mean, if you have a mature spouse, then you can even talk to that spouse about it. It's not always possible, I know that. But for the mature spouse, you can always say, that when you do this, this irritates me a lot. And I'm sorry I get irritated by this. So if you could reduce doing it, that would be very helpful. And also, please support me, because when I get irritated because of this, please support me. I'm getting irritated, and I'm going to work on it.
Yeah.
That's a very mature way of living with people, no?
Yeah, of course.
But it's not always possible, because the two people have to be mature to do that.
Yes, the maturity levels are always different for everybody.
Yeah. So that means the challenge is bigger now. I mean, you can't say this to everybody. It may not be a spouse. Even to your own parents, you may not be able to say this. So not everybody is more mature, but the great thing is, as we get more mature, we will find a more mature environment somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Because automatically we'll gravitate to people like that, no? We don't choose mature people. You don't go around choosing people, oh, is he mature or is he not mature? But the people you start relating to happen to be more mature.
Okay.
They take negativity in their stride, because they understand this is part of life. None of us are perfect. We're all highly imperfect beings. So one thing for us to know also is, how charitable am I towards those who are imperfect? As I would, you know what the Christian prayer is? It's a beautiful prayer. Let us forgive others as we, please forgive us as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Forgive us, Lord, our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Thank you, Bharat. What would I do with that?
Bharat? Yeah, Bharat is our savior.
Yeah, and maybe we learned it in school, right? All us convent people have been saying it for years on end. It's a beautiful idea. It's almost the idea that I'm asking the Lord for forgiveness, but am I capable of forgiveness myself? I am not willing to forgive anybody, but I want the Lord to forgive me. That's not fair, right?
Yeah.
So how much can I forgive others? How much can I be, by forgiving is not like, oh, you did something bad and now I'm going to forgive you. How much can I be understanding of the faults of others? If I have a fault, I expect, no? Yeah. All these people tell me that we can't hear you. The last part of your sentence always goes away. Don't let the last part go away like that. Okay. Now, what to do? I make that mistake. You know, sometimes you thought the concept is over, and so okay, it's over now. But for somebody, they needed maybe that last part, and you were uncharitable. You didn't say it properly. You just assumed everybody got it. Yeah. So I expect people to be forgiving of it. No, suppose people will say, I can't even hear what she's saying, I'm going. Then all the hard work everybody has done is lost.
Yes.
So we expect forgiveness from others, then we must be willing for this ourselves. It's not easy. None of this is easy, Uttara, so don't be harsh on yourself.
Yes, it is not easy at all.
It's not. It is definitely not. And everyone in the class, I'm sure, can identify with your feeling that this person though I will not, this person though I should be allowed to say negative about. I'm sure everyone can identify with that feeling, but what can we do? Let's leave that person and let's then forgive everybody else for starters until we are able to include everybody.
Thank you, Janki. Thank you.
So who will read the next para?
I can read.
Go ahead.
It's from You Should Therefore, right? Yeah. You should therefore refrain from finding flaws in others, criticizing others' failings. Behind every flaw you recognize in another, perhaps you have the same more pronounced in you. Do not consume your life merely detecting the blemishes in the outside world. Judge not others, cautioned Lord Jesus. The energy you waste in judging others could as well serve to improve yourself. Moreover, by blaming the vice in others, you miss their virtues. You become involved in negativities and lose the positive side of life. Do not give up on the rose for its thorns. You would soon realize the wisdom in the resounding words of Edward Wallace Hodge. So,
no, continue. It's the same para.
Okay. There is so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, that it hardly behooves any of us to talk about the rest of us.
Continue.
Every human being needs, therefore, to concentrate his efforts in investigating his own personality. Instead of prying into the lives of others, you have no right to do so. Your business is your life. If others make mistakes, they will have to pay for them. Let them settle their accounts with the Almighty. You seem to be more concerned with the affairs of others than your own. You need to look within. Set your personality right. Just take care of yourself. The world will take care of itself. Do I stop here?
Yes.
Okay. So again, don't look at the flaws in others, because if you're finding flaws in others, it's because you have the same ones within yourself. So don't judge others.
That's not what it said. Please be very careful. You are in Vedanta. You cannot do all this.
See, it says
What does he
behind
say?
every flaw you recognize in another, perhaps you have the same more pronounced in you.
Don't drop the word perhaps.
Okay.
That's an important word here.
Okay. So, so don't judge others and just focus on improving yourself.
Use that energy which you spent in wasting time saying he has got this fault and that fault in improving ourselves.
Yeah. And instead of focusing on the negative points in others, focus on the positive side of what they have.
Like music to our ears, no, this paragraph of we have just learned so much in this world. Will be a happy soul. This whole part is very interesting about how to deal with others. So first and foremost, stop finding flaws. What's the point of it? When you see flaws in others, it is because of your own weakness. Please note the difference in these things. This is Vedanta, is not like any generalization. I'm saying it is because of the weakness. I hope you're seeing the difference, right? Because the whole skill of Vedanta is in developing discrimination. So where do you say is? Where do you say perhaps? This is a big and important aspect of of our capacity to concentrate on what is being said. For every flaw which you see in others, it is
An indication of a weakness in you.
It is your desire. You call it a flaw means it is your desire. Now, for every flaw that you see in others, there's a high likelihood of that flaw being much more in yourself. Okay, please notice the difference between these two statements. If our discrimination doesn't grow, if we cannot tell the difference, then we're not developing the skill of Vedanta, because the skill of Vedanta is the very simple word discrimination. Vedanta is discrimination. Discrimination is Vedanta. Not discrimination like in South Africa, not that one. Discrimination as the capacity to tell two things apart. Okay. The person who assassinated Rajiv Gandhi was recently released after spending 30 years in jail. How relevant is it here to the point discussed? I don't know, Meera. I don't know why you are thinking that his release from jail has got anything to do with this. No, release from jail, if you commit a crime, you will be jailed. That is the law of the land. That's our legal framework. We are not talking about the legal framework. We are talking here about our self-development. That if somebody kills somebody, then we have to, can we criticize him? That's sweet. Don't keep trying to find somebody we can criticize. Yeah, you can please go ahead and criticize, because it seems like we'd like to do that. But why would we criticize that person? We know nothing, right? We don't know why he did it. What is his point? At one point, Godse shot at Gandhi, and everybody criticized him, and he's a horrible man. Nowadays, they're doing Shat Naman Godse. These are all social things. Someday somebody will think you're good, someday somebody will think you're bad, then after some time again they'll think you're good, then again they'll think you're bad. It's all waste of time. Okay, you break a law, you go to jail. It's that simple. The law of our land says you can't kill anyone. If you kill anyone, you go to jail. Now, whether you did what you thought was right or not, let's talk to you and find out what you thought. But why should we criticize? Because we don't know what that person thought, did, why. Why should somebody go and kill somebody? Only they know. So, verse is, what's that chap? I forgot it. Who came into Mumbai and shot everybody and killed everybody?
Kasab.
Huh?
Ajmal Kasab.
Ajmal Kasab. Nowadays, we've forgotten about Ajmal Kasab. But at that time, he was big. Can we criticize Ajmal Kasab? No. Why should we criticize? We don't know what happened in that poor chap's life. What did he go through that he thought it was okay to come and just shoot random innocent strangers? What happened in his life? Does he require our sympathy?
So, Janki, can we criticize the sin and not the sinner?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Now, we wouldn't do these kind of things, but a sympathetic view on what happened. Sympathetic towards everybody, the criminal as well as the victim. Otherwise, sometimes we go to the other extreme. We are more sympathetic with the criminal than we are with the victim. Like sometimes just discrimination has gone, or what? Like everything seems to fail in us very quickly. So what were we saying? So can we criticize him? Not really. Why should we? What business is it of ours to criticize anybody? We can, as students of Vedanta, just try to understand, if necessary, what's happening over here. And so what do we know from this? Now that we have to close, there is so much good in the worst of us. What is it? There's so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, that it does not behove any of us to speak about the rest of us. In Ajmal Kasab, there must have been good things. In this assassinator of Rajiv Gandhi, there must have been good things. And what to speak of my mother-in-law and my husband and my neighbor and my brother and my sister, all of whom are irritating the life out of me. Something good must be there, no? The rest of us, we are neither in that very good category nor the very bad category. So that is it for today. Bharat announcement. Today is the last class. Our season ends. Next season begins on the 9th of June. All those who have been missing real world classes, please come and join us at the residential retreat. We are going to be there for 2 weeks, so you can come anytime in those 2 weeks. I'm very happy to see you there. More than the happiness to see you, it is some amount of Vedanta has to be done by living it. By living it means by living with discipline. So as many days as you can do, please come and do. We are going to be there. Okay. Hari Om.
Hari Om Janki ji.
Hari Om Janki ji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hari Om
Janki.
Janki.
Hari Om Janki.
Hari Om, thank you.
Thank you, Janki ji. Hari Om.
Hari Om Di, thank you so much.
Hari Om Janki ji, thank you.
Hari Om.